Hey everyone, welcome to the Palikari Business Podcast. My name is Abby.
And I'm Nick.
And we're the founders of Odyssey Productions Co., a video production company located in the Central Valley of California.
Yeah, the word Palikari is a Greek word that means a young person who's achieved great things beyond their years.
So in each episode of this podcast, we will be interviewing successful business owners, influencers, and entrepreneurs to learn from their wisdom, experiences, and even their mistakes in hopes of helping you achieve great things beyond your years.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Our guest today is Tom Rose, and he is a coach for introverted business professionals. He has a passion for helping them realize their full potential.
Introversion isn't a disease, and in today's episode, Tom is going to help us understand what skills and assets introverts bring to the table, how understanding your emotions actually affects business and why it's important, and even how to grow in confidence as an introvert. Okay, so first things first, can you just share a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do now?
Okay, my name is Tom Rose. It's a pleasure to be with you, Nick and Abby. So my background, I had a really fascinating career. I worked on 6 different continents quite extensively. Saw things I never thought that I would experience in my life. And I had a career that I never saw coming in a million years. So, I really kind of limped my way through college and, graduated because, I fell in love and decided that, if I didn't stick it out, I wouldn't make the cut. I got through college, and then I found myself surrounded by, top tier talent, big time universities, people that really, had a leg up on me, and I felt like a bit of a fish out of water. But I discovered, really, kind of grasping at straws in desperation. I really did discover a secret power over one weekend of reading Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I discovered the power of observation, the value of self-awareness, and really developed an appetite for learning. So from really that, I walked into the office that Monday and I felt differently. I looked at people differently, and I looked at myself differently. And things changed. So, I guess the punchline is I served on the executive leadership team of major companies, for over 20 years. I was functional head. I've had, thousands of people, work for me. I'm an introvert and an underdog, and I've always been fascinated by that. And it was very difficult. I felt really out of place and under-equipped, in the world of business. I kind of figured out how to do it. And the irony is that I was the vice president of sales at Guinness, which is the most social job you're going to find. And so, so I was winking at people, that I'm an introvert, and here I am doing this job. But I think that I was successful, because of my reflective nature. And, I think the depth of my thinking, that introverts have, really cut a little differently. And so I've become fascinated with coaching. I discovered in 2007 that really my purpose was helping other people fulfill their potential. And, I went back to school, and I was living in London at the time, and I got a master's degree in executive coaching, and did great. So I got that undergrad experience, out of the way. Since then I've really just had a great desire to help coach and develop other people's potential. So right now, about 6 months ago, I shifted from being a career growth coach to specializing in in helping introverts build a fulfilling and satisfying career. So it's something that's obviously close to my heart. I really hope to help introverts is really what I'm trying to do, because it just doesn't feel right. When I first started thinking about introverts, and shifting this, I got like this immediate buzz and energy from others, talking about it. And it just seemed to be something that was so ripe, and something that that no that, that I looked up introversion, and every word was diminishing.
Yeah.
And I looked up extroversion, and every word was proud and confident and strong and bold, and
Mhm.
then they have the introverts. And the history of introversion, it goes back thousands of years, but that they defined extroversion. They wrote, okay, so this is what extroversion is, and they say introversion is the other thing. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
They didn't say, all right, well, this is what an introvert is. It's just it isn't that person over there.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's pretty cheesy, if you ask me.
What are a few of the topics that you would cover if someone did join as an introvert, trying to get help?
Well, with anything else, it's important to take a step back before you try to take a step forward, and having self awareness and understanding what it is that makes us tick really matters. In an incredible amount. Our personalities and our emotions drive our behaviors. And our behaviors are what other people see in us. Um, and as introverts, we're more comfortable, spending time inside. So, our comfort level is more with our own thoughts than it is with the external world. Now, it's a spectrum, it's a continuum, extroversion and introversion. No one's, on one polar extreme. Everybody's somewhere in the middle. So I think the most important thing is to develop self-awareness. And because I'm not, I'm not a life coach, I'm a business coach, but life and work sure have a lot to do with each other. So what I try to do is I try to understand the environment that the individual is in, and then apply pretty specific actions and tactics and outcomes relative to the individual's motivation level, and level of determination. So the first question I ask is why. So why are you seeking coaching, and why usually requires two or three more whys to really get to the bottom of it. And then the second is really why now, because that at any given time to take the step to trust somebody else, to really allow them in to help you, is a big step. So why now? So what is it today that is motivating you, to open the door to having someone sit with you, and
Mhm.
you know
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
that's really good. So, as we are kind of talking about it, you specialize in helping business professionals and people understand who they are and how their personality affect the way they do business. Specifically, when it comes to personality, introversion versus extroversion, what are some of the differences, I guess, in introvert that introverts have, and like the skills or assets they may bring to the table that they don't even realize they have?
I think that's well stated, that question, because there are so many positives, that introverts can be their own most difficult judge, and
Mm-hmm.
can be hard on themselves.
Yeah.
Um, and they have so many things that you know, that they don't see. So
Mm-hmm.
specifically, um, so introverts have a tendency to be more emotional and can be
Mm-hmm.
more sensitive, but they have, because of that, they have a nuanced understanding of detail, and behaviors, both theirs and other people. Um, they also, tend to be pretty empathetic to others,
Mm-hmm.
which is a wonderful trait to have, in an office environment, whether you're managing people or with your peers as well. Um, I think that there's an adaptability that um, an introvert has. So extroverts often it's a fact that historically are paid more, they get promoted more, um, yeah, and they're more valued in the business because they're more present. They are action oriented. They're proactive. Yeah, and they very much have a positive impact, on the culture often. Um, so, there's good reasons for that. But actually, in the world of business, and in life, it isn't the trait. So the trait is introversion or extroversion. It's actually the state. The state is a temporary time and space, in which you are operating in, and every single one of us acts extroverted many times a day. And extroverted people act introverted today many times a day. But there's a lot of research on this that extroverts can act uh, extroverted and actually get a positive emotional benefit from it. Um, Whereas extroverts have a much harder time acting introverted. So to step back and be
Mm-hmm.
reflective, it actually can have some cognitive impairment on an extrovert. So an introvert is actually more adaptable, and flexible,
Yeah.
in their behavior. So um, introverts, they overestimate the pain and the cost of
Mm-hmm.
acting counter dispositionally. So they
Yeah.
and they also underestimate the benefit of it. So when they do it, and they can step by step, inch by inch, desensitize themselves to that, they actually
Mm-hmm.
find that they can be good at it, and they like it, and they actually get a buzz out of it. But they do need to take a step back and find restorative niches, and and find their space.
Yeah.
Always are going to
Yeah.
need their space, but um, I mean, we could talk all day about the benefits of introversion.
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah, because I think it's just so easy, like you said, for you to underestimate as an introvert, underestimate and think, oh, I just don't bring enough to the table. But there is a
Yeah.
lot. There is a lot, like you're saying. You could talk all day. There's a lot that actually they can bring to the table that they don't even realize, which is really cool. So, kind of, I guess, moving forward on that topic, what what is the importance of having a healthy understanding of yourself and where you're at, like as an introvert or just even as an extrovert, just in general, what is the importance of having that healthy understanding for yourself, and how does it impact your place in the workspace or in professions
Yeah.
or whatever?
Okay. I handle that two ways. One is is well-being. So
Mm-hmm.
your personal well-being. Um, it depends on a number of things. It
Mm-hmm.
depends on the level of autonomy that you have. About how much control, and it depends on your level of connectedness, and
Mm-hmm.
connectedness meaning that you're in a position or in an environment where you're free to act like yourself. Really matters. Um, so, in order to achieve well being, which is something 100% of human beings want, I think, um, you really have to understand, one, in the case of an introvert, that you're not by any means broken. You just get your energy, um, from a different source, and your energy comes more from inside of you as opposed to the external world. An introvert actually, will suffer if they are too isolated. So an extrovert really needs that environment. So having an understanding of where you're most comfortable, um, where you can be your best, really matters. And what a coach can do is a coach really can facilitate that conversation and see things for you that you might not be able to see yourself. because we're hard scorers of ourselves. So I think being able to take a step back and seeing yourself, it gives you much more upside in terms of physical well-being. Now, at work, having an understanding of you know, of what your strengths and weaknesses are. So, say you admire someone who's a good public speaker, and you say that's the last thing that I possibly want to do, is get up on a stage and public speak. But if you know that, then you can make a decision: is the benefit of me learning to do that higher than the cost is of me doing that? Um, and the more you take those baby steps, no matter what it is, the more you actually, the world can open up for you, and you will take greater pride in yourself, and
Hmm.
I think that momentum breeds momentum.
So we're both introverted as well. And so when we started this podcast, we really kind of struggled at first with talking, and it can
Yeah.
still be difficult sometimes. But another place where we struggle is we actually started our business 2 years ago, and the whole networking and making connections is
Yeah.
like one of the most important parts in business, and business professionals, like you said, in sales and everything too, that can be really difficult. So how would you recommend, or how do you go about building those connections, or maybe creating a different way to build those connections as an introvert that's not so stressful or high pressure for somebody who's not great in those really big social gatherings?
That's a great question, and a really important question. Um, networking is our nemesis as
Yeah.
introverts, and it's absolutely a must. Um, and yeah, introverts, you know, they are not they don't not surface skimmers. So introverts are not going to they can't cast a wide net and go around and shake hands and kiss babies. Of course they can, and I mean, they are very adaptable, so they can do it, but it wears on them. So it takes
Mhm.
a bit of a toll. So as opposed to casting a wide net, being targeted, and really segmenting the
Mhm.
individuals or groups that you want to network with, is just a far better approach. And then um, going the extra step and getting to know and understand what are the touch points of that
Mhm.
individual, or that group. So, you know, individuals also, introverts are not big fans of small talk. We like to just get right to the meat and potatoes.
Yep.
So if we do have insight into the others and the groups, then we're much more able to build a connection.
Mhm.
And one thing that I've often thought, and so I was in marketing for a long time, in business, which is great because you're on one side of the desk and the other person has to sell to you. And then, we had a reorganization, and now suddenly I'm in sales and I had to knock on people's doors,
Yeah.
and so I was, an introvert in an extroverted world there. And what I discovered is that it was the little things that made a difference for me. And I was pretty good at that job because I would always ask somebody if I can help them in any way. And they'd give me
Mhm.
some inconsequential thing to do. And I would always do it, and I'd always do it well, and I'd always do it on time. And they said, wow, this guy cares.
Mhm.
He actually does what he says he's going to do. So, I think that we just have to connect in the way that we connect. We can't connect the way that other people, the other
Yeah.
half of
Yeah.
the world connects. And that is something that they're great at and comes more naturally to them. But,
Mhm.
it's something that's really empowered me a lot. Um, I believe that I am an empathetic guy. I'm a a bit of a driver,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a lot of empathy, and I know that somewhere between a third and a half of all people are introverted, which means
Hmm.
that they feel exactly the same way that I feel. And they're like, trying to figure out the same things.
Yeah.
So I can reach out to them, and just say hello and, and smile,
Mm-hmm.
and greet them and make small talk with them. And it's amazing how the receptivity that gets, because so many other people are just in exactly the same
Yeah.
place,
Yeah.
and, if you do it, if I'm in a supermarket line, I talk to the person there,
Yeah.
and it's just so easy to have a connection,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that we're far from alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's really all about just being relational, and rather than trying to approach it like, say, the standard, oh, I'm going to go to this big networking thing, pass out my card to everybody. It's just about being friendly and relational and making the
Yeah.
effort to just go out of your way to help people. And is that is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. Is just think, one person, one group at a time.
Mm-hmm.
um, get to know them, uh, and build a connection through your understanding of them. That,
Mm-hmm.
at a networking event, a networking event is full of people that are there to network,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
you know 90% of them are the hunters, not the hunted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most people
Yeah.
you're going
Sure.
to, interact with, are people that, we're not right for each other, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
It's true. That's really good. And I do like that a lot because it makes it feel so much simpler. Like you broke it down into like a little step. Like it's as simple as just who's the person in front of you that you can connect with, and just connect with them like you normally would anybody else. And I like that because
Yeah.
it takes all the pressure off, like needing to be this,
Hmm.
I don't know, this big deal. So that's really
Yeah.
good.
And
Yeah,
also adding
yeah.
in that we're not alone
Mm-hmm.
with the introvert journey helps too, because like I know even as an introvert myself, whenever someone talks to me, it's not like I am dreading it, just that they're talking to me. It's just that I don't know how to approach other people sometimes. But that doesn't mean I would dislike that they approach me, so I know that they would probably be appreciative of just having a
Yeah.
nice conversation with someone, so it's not like a scary thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So then another one of the topics you actually mentioned when we were kind of discussing the podcast ahead of time was you said that something about emotional intelligence versus IQ, and that's something we're really interested in. So can you expand on that?
Um, of course I can.
Okay.
So emotional intelligence. Earlier in my career, I was really hoping I was high in emotional intelligence because I didn't believe I was that high in
Mm-hmm.
IQ. Um, so I've taken tests, and I'm, glad to say that I do have. I think it is something that has really helped me in my career. And emotional intelligence is really about understanding your awareness, um, and regulating. Um, sorry, your emotions, and regulating your emotions, and having an awareness of others' emotions and their pains, so that, we can navigate the situation, and adapt to the situation,
Mm-hmm.
in order to, make things go well. Um, so, interestingly, it might sound like something that is more external world, but it really isn't. It's driven from the inside, and it comes from really understanding, you know, the feelings that you're having, and your feelings, are driven by your emotions, and your emotions drive
Mm-hmm.
your behaviors. So being close to them and understanding, when your heart rate goes faster, or
Mm-hmm.
your brow begins to sweat a little bit, or you see other people that are uncomfortable in a setting. um, reaching out to them, and
Yeah.
it's about having an awareness there. Um, so, but emotional awareness has grown infinitely since Daniel Goleman, wrote
Mm-hmm.
about it in the late 1980s. And now, hiring managers, like 80+%, Harvard Business Review says 80+% of the hiring managers are prioritizing, you know, emotional intelligence versus
Yeah.
IQ. And so I was interviewing for a really big job uh, some time ago, and it was an internal promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a psychologist from Yale University spend 3 days with me, like 12 hours a day,
Wow.
to make
Oh.
sure I wasn't a kook. Um, so I thought it went great. I had to take aptitude tests. It was really intense. Um, but I said, look, it's something I have to do, so I did it, and I thought it went great. Uh, and so he wrote his report on it, and everything did go great. But I made one comment, and the comment was that I don't always hire the smartest people. So, because I want heart and mind and
Yeah.
soul. It's not about IQ. And so he recommended that I not get that job because the his appreciation was all about IQ.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting that job, and it was only a couple of years later that the president of the company, shared with me that story. That
Hmm.
Yeah.
he said, no, I know this guy and I like this guy, but it's not always it's just isn't about IQ. It's about the impact that you have on other people, and
Mm-hmm.
how you can bring other people with you, and having emotional intelligence. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the people in the corner office are much higher. I mean, but there is a threshold of IQ that is necessary. But
Mm-hmm.
if I could only have one, and it's not that I have a choice, but if I could only have one, that is what I would choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's good because if you could have so much IQ, but if you have no emotional awareness, not only are you not able to understand your own emotions and kind of understand when those are coming into play, but also not being able to understand other people's emotions is very, I would think, is makes it much more difficult because people are uncomfortable around you or you don't understand them or all these things could come up. So having that emotional intelligence would be really important. So that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
And it is a developable skill.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is something that you can continue to grow on through observation and trial and inquiry. Um, by taking a step back and asking
Yeah.
yourself, what do you see? And
Mm-hmm.
recognizing your emotions. That the more, you're aware of, okay, so, I have a tendency to withdraw,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, or, I have, in a tendency to ramble, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so, and that's being driven by some fear or insecurity or what it is, you know, I think having a curiosity, to
Yeah.
really understand and learn is really one of the most important things that one can have.
I like that because whenever you're curious about things too, even in a practical sense, like you can figure out how to help clients
Mm-hmm.
better, if you have a better understanding of them. If you don't know what their pain points are, how could you claim to have the answer to their pain
Yeah.
points? So it's good to always be aware
Mm-hmm.
of the people that you're trying to serve too.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
good.
I think the new number, and this is not an entirely new phenomenon, but something like 90% of people that are being sold to
Mm-hmm.
don't want to see the salespeople.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm.
many, many, many of them, are really trying to meet their needs and not to understand the needs of the person that is going to make the decision. That
Mm-hmm.
it's a square peg in a round hole. So,
Yeah.
um, listening, and being receptive to the input of others, it's going to get you a lot farther, than it is
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
by being, domineering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's really good. And as a coach too, listening would obviously be really important, especially in your line of work, because you're having to listen to people to be able to understand them and help them. So that's cool. And that kind of leads into my next question: is, as a coach, obviously there's probably been a lot of lessons you've learned or things you've had to figure out along the way. So what are some of the most impactful lessons you've learned as you've been coaching people through this, through their introversion and through the things they've been learning?
I think that it requires courage, um, and certainly trust. But to be on the receiving end and to put yourself out there enough for someone else to help you. And, um, even though, you know, introverts and we, tend to be very introspective, we have blinders on, and there are areas that we're afraid to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if we can, if we have the courage to push those doors open and to trust in, the other party enough,
Mm-hmm.
uh, then amazing things can happen. I,
Yeah.
I was really fortunate early in my career. I got a promotion. I was like the last person who was filled these roles, and it was like, who are we going to get to do this? So let's give it to him. And it was all of a sudden I was managing like 35 people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I had a coach, and I did some things pretty well, but I didn't really see them. And this coach, really got me to believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was there, but I don't know that I would have, really had the same result if I didn't have somebody that you know convinced me, saw things in me that I was
Yeah.
worthy. You know, um, because I think it's just our tendency, is to beat ourselves up a bit, and so I just I see the potential in people that
Mm-hmm.
they I mean the gold mine for me is when people are able to realize things that they never even thought were possible. I mean,
Yeah.
I worked with a junior person, without a college degree, um, who is now senior vice president of a major travel company
Wow.
and could be president of that company,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, that was not on the table,
Yeah.
So, I think courage, confidence is another, introverts tend to be, lower in self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it took me a long time. So, you know, instilling confidence really
Yeah.
matters a lot.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Do you have any tips for people if they are low confidence on how to just go about raising their own confidence?
Um, I think taking a step back, um, and observing others, that have the patience to take a step back, and observe others and see what they do well.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you're able, to have a clear picture in your mind of what success looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and and work a little harder. So work little harder to fill that void
Mm-hmm.
of of what can I do to improve that, and looking at your comfort zone, being prepared to take some risks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think mindset matters so much, and having
Yeah.
a mindset of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And we really, we only have one shot at this, and
Yeah.
and the curtain is up. So, you know, what we
Mm-hmm.
do today matters today, and it matters tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really kind of having the courage to push yourself out of your comfort zone is what helps build your confidence. So that makes a lot of sense, and
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly, I think, what has to happen is a lot of people are scared to take that step. But like you said, it's all connected. The courage and the confidence all are both connected. You have to have the courage to build the confidence. So that makes a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of courage, that kind of led me to another question is I think in business professions, a lot of people think that vulnerability has no place in that. In the workspace, sometimes it's like looked down upon, like you just, you have to get your stuff done and you don't share anything like that. You just stay professional. What's your opinion on vulnerability in a workspace like that, especially with your personality or emotional intelligence levels? Like what do you think about that?
I well, so extroverts tend to be strong leaders, and
Mm-hmm.
they do particularly well when they are managing, you know, more passive teams.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, uh, that needs a strong leader. The idea of servant leadership is not something that comes naturally to an extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
But servant leadership is something that comes quite naturally to an introvert. And an introvert, as a leader, is much better suited where a team is proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they don't need somebody to come in and pound the table and tell them what they need to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
after they brush their teeth in the morning. So that's where an introverted leader really shines. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of vulnerability, um, you know, I couldn't more strongly believe that um, leading people requires being vulnerable and
Mm-hmm.
being real, and being authentic, and and being able to you know to show who you are, warts and all.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to me, that's just so much of what leadership is. But that's all I know. I don't know how to be, a pound the table person.
Yeah.
You know, um, so I one time was managing and leading a senior person, and I tried to to help during his performance review. I said, "I'd love to see you be more vulnerable." And he looked at me, like I was out of my mind. He says, "Let me get this right. You want me to be more vulnerable? What is this?" And it just didn't register with him. And yeah, I mean, he had a perfectly good career,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that it's about the situation, and it is about the fit. How do I fit in this environment? Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that drives your well-being. It drives your job satisfaction.
Yeah.
And so, how can I best fit this? If I have a team, that is just full of really crazy, go-getters, I might not have to lead that way, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
um, that's how I build connections.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I really don't mind putting myself out there, which is
Yeah.
just something that I am not afraid to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense because it's a lot, or it makes you want to follow someone if you can connect with them and at some level, and if you can't connect with your leader at all, then, like you said, they're just barking orders and you're following, but
Mm-hmm.
there's not any like growth in the relationship, and it could probably lead to burnout pretty fast too, if
Yeah.
there's no understanding of like where they're coming
Mm-hmm.
from, or you wouldn't build passion behind the
That's very
project
true.
without any vulnerability and connection with the person leading. So
Yeah.
I feel like those are some big
there's
factors.
been you know it, it's become a tidal wave of momentum toward you know empathetic leadership. Um, and it wasn't that long ago that 95% of the leaders in big business were extroverts.
Mhm.
And that's shifted, and it's shifted with the desire, for higher emotional intelligence. Um, and I just don't see it shifting back. Are people,
Mhm.
going to increasingly, want their voice to be heard less?
Yeah.
Are they going to want to be appreciated less? you know,
Yeah.
do they want to be, treated, homogeneously, or do they want to be treated as individuals?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where we're going, and I'm thrilled about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's just where the ground is going.
Yeah, that's really good.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to connect with you for coaching, what is the best way for them to do that?
TomRose.coach.
Okay.
It's probably my, website is probably, the best place to go. You find me on LinkedIn. The name of my company is Regard Executive Coaching, and it's
Awesome.
based on the principle that long-term success in business requires building many skills and qualities, but there are none more important than having genuine regard for others.
That's really good.
It's good. I
That
like
is
that.
good. Yeah, I really like that. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you learned just as much as we did on this episode of the Palikari Business Podcast.
Yeah, for more information on our guests, make sure to check out the podcast description on whatever platform you're listening on.
Yeah, and if you'd like to connect with us and continue the discussion, you can always join our Palikari community Discord and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Just search for us under the handle @Odyssey Productions Co. for new podcast clips in your feed every week.
Until then, we'll see you next time.